My name's Jon Edlin. I'm the owner of Edlin Tornado Solutions, and I help families prepare for tornadoes. My family was actually hit by an EF3 tornado, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I needed to help protect my family. It actually inspired me to write a book called the PSI Method. I was speaking about overcoming adversity. I would give the PSI book out to everybody, and then they would say, what if I was in a tornado? How do I prepare? And I thought, well, they probably need something for that too. As a small business owner or entrepreneur, it's important to understand your community's needs, and especially if something like a tornado has gone through your community, make sure that you're finding ways to show that community that you care about them. My name is Jon Edlin, and I am a legacy maker.
Jon Edlin grew up in Kansas City after moving from the Philippines. He was shaped by community, music, and a desire to find a unique path in life.
My name's Jon Edlin. I'm the owner of Edlin Tornado Solutions, and I help families prepare for tornadoes. I was born in Manila, Philippines, and we moved from there when I was 2.5 to Kansas City, where I basically was raised my whole life. Was in a punk rock Christian band that was actually heavily attended by a lot of the youth and everybody there, and it was with my two best friends, and just learned to really love the community and to be part of something that could impact the community for the greater good. In Kansas City, I was a big Chiefs fan. I loved the Chiefs even before they got Patrick Mahomes and were really good. I wanted to be Casey Wolf when I grew up. And I remember Casey Wolf came to my church once and shared the gospel, and then he said, anybody want to try on my costume? And I raised my hand and I was like, please pick me, and he picked me. And I got into that suit and it smelled so bad, I thought, I do not want to be Casey Wolf. So that was the end of that dream. And then I went on to think about wanting to be a helicopter pilot for time and some other things, but always just looking for kind of an out-of-the-box idea of what I might do with my life.
Playing in a teenage punk rock band sparked Jon's passion for business.
In 5th grade, I got a drum set, and I loved playing the drums. And then my friends in 7th grade, my two best friends, got a guitar for Christmas. And so we created a Christian punk rock band and played hundreds of shows all over Kansas City at all the Youth for Christ jamborees, and became kind of a well-known band in the Kansas City area all the way up until I graduated my senior year and decided I wanted to go to college to learn about business, because the thing I loved most about being in the band wasn't playing the drums, it was actually running the merch table. It was learning, if we sell this much, then we'll get this much money, and if we sell this many t-shirts, then we can afford to get this. And I just loved that, and so I went to college to learn how to do more of that.
He studied marketing in Nashville and built early experience in publishing and media, developing strong communication and leadership skills.
So I ended up going to college in Nashville, Tennessee. We went to Trevecca Nazarene University and did 4 years there learning about marketing and organizational communications. So after I graduated from college, I was able to stay in the Nashville area and work for a small chiropractic company where a guy was selling his #1 best-selling book about being healthy. I was kind of the gopher and was able to do a little bit of everything. Billboards around Nashville, did some TV commercials, and just really enjoyed supporting his vision and his dream of helping America become healthy. But it didn't last very long because I got a little homesick, wanted to be back in Kansas City, and had a great opportunity to be a marketing manager for a small publishing company in Kansas City. So I moved out to Kansas City and really enjoyed that experience of leading a team of 4 at that point and learning how to make books sell in the midst of Kindles and iPads and ebooks that were kind of eating away at the industry. So I learned a lot of really helpful information while I was there, and then wanted to move back to Nashville in 2016 because my wife, who's a singer-songwriter, won a bunch of songwriting competitions and gave us a ton of opportunity for us to move out there and see kind of what would happen in the music industry for her music.
Working in media sales, Jon discovered that effective marketing is about selling hope, not just products.
So when I got to Nashville, I was looking for something to do that could utilize my marketing strengths, but I found that I was actually a better salesperson to marketers because I understood what their needs were, especially releasing new product, releasing books and those types of things. And in Nashville, I found that I could sell to record labels, to their marketing directors for new album releases. So I worked for a small publishing company out there that sold advertising for magazines. So really enjoyed the sales process, but didn't do that for too long before I started to realize that I wanted to get back into marketing and do that for a major company, which was Ramsey Solutions, Dave Ramsey, and learned a ton from him on how to have a media company and how to not just sell a product, but to sell hope. And I really connected with that, especially from a marketing standpoint, that what you're selling is not a curriculum or an app or anything like that, or a radio show. It's about hope. And that is something that I've put into my business of selling hope and safety and preparedness to people.
A devastating EF3 tornado destroyed Jon's home and left him with trauma that he later overcame through EMDR therapy.
It was a typical spring day in Nashville, Tennessee, and my kids and I were getting ready to plant flowers. My wife was taking pictures. It was just a beautiful spring day. We put the kids down to bed about 8 o'clock, and 10 o'clock we watched the news, and the meteorologist, would say, "Oh, we've had such great spring weather. Spring's coming early. We're so excited. Now there's a small risk of a severe threat tonight, but look at the forecast ahead. It's going to be amazing." And my wife turned to me and she said, "Jon, what would we do if we were hit by a tornado?" And my wife and I were high school sweethearts, and we had grown up in Kansas, and we knew about tornadoes and knew that you just go down to the basement if there's a tornado warning, and none of us have been hit by that, and so it wasn't a big deal. But we didn't have a basement in Nashville, so I thought about that, and I said, "Babe, don't worry. Nashville tornadoes are nothing like Kansas tornadoes. They'll just skip on the hills. So we live in a valley, it would skip right over us." Famous almost last words, because at 1 o'clock in the morning, I get a buzz on my phone. When I look at my phone, it says, "Tornado warning, seek shelter immediately." And even then, I'm like, "Oh, Nashville, you don't understand tornadoes. You don't know what you're doing. There's not a tornado warning. There's not probably a tornado even close to us." But I decided to go ahead and get up and just check the weather. So I turned on the TV, and there was Danielle Breezy, and she was not in a good mood. She was like, "There is a tornado on the ground in Nashville." And we live just 10 miles east of Nashville. So if this tornado stays on the ground and goes straight east of downtown Nashville, it's gonna hit us. Now, I went ahead and put on my shoes and put on a good hoodie and woke up my wife and said, "Hey, there's a tornado warning. We should get the kids into the innermost part of the house, away from windows." So we grabbed my 7-year-old, we grabbed my 5-year-old, and we put them into the hallway. And as soon as we did that, the lights went off. My ears popped with all the pressure that came. Then all the windows pop, 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 pop. And I jumped on top of my 7-year-old daughter. And my 5-year-old son was sitting in my wife's lap, and we held on for dear life as the tornado came over us and pushed us back and forth and back and forth. And I really felt like at that moment, I was gonna get sucked out of the house and thrown in to the front yard. And I just prayed, "God, please keep my daughter safe. Keep my family safe." And as soon as I thought that, it was quiet. You could smell the propane and the broken wood, and the glass and insulation was just everywhere, the mud. I looked into my bedroom to get my wife's shoes, and the ceiling was gone, the wall was gone. There's actually a brick wall on top of our bed. And I told the kids and my wife, I said, okay, both rooms are gone, but I think I can still get your shoes. So I went and got their shoes, and they put those on, and we waited for about 3 hours for anybody to come and get us. 911 was busy because East Nashville had just been hit, and there's too many people for them to get to. So we were one of the last that they got to, and finally we found shelter and we were safe. The tornado that we had gone through was an EF3. It had stayed on the ground for 63 miles, and unfortunately it killed 25 people. Our house was completely destroyed. Our kids lost all of their belongings, their toys. We tried to put on clothes that were in the closet that looked fine, but when you put them on, the insulation, the little bits of fiberglass were in there, and there was no amount of washing it out to be able to wear those again. And so we threw away so much, including, honestly, the entire house. The entire house was torn down, and we couldn't go back and live there because of the PTSD of just living through that. And so I had to do a lot of work afterwards to not be so shaken by just the threat of a severe weather event. If there was a threat of a severe weather event, my body would physically start shaking. And my barber, who does a great job on my beard, about a year later was saying, Jon, how are you doing after this tornado? And I said, well, honestly, I shake every time there's a severe weather event. And I can't go into work, and my mind goes blank, and I can't do anything. And he says, sounds like you need to see a counselor and do some EMDR. And I'd never heard of EMDR. It's a way to release trauma. And when I did that, it was incredible. It was something that absolutely released me from all that trauma and changed my life to where now I can go around, tell that story without shaking, and I can be here today and tell that story without having to curl up in a ball somewhere and, shake for the rest of the day.
Jon created the PSI Method to help others navigate adversity and regain control.
I learned from that process how you have the power to decide how you're going to respond to adversity. It actually inspired me to write a book called the PSI Method. And the PSI Method basically is power, smart, important. One, like we already talked about, you have the power to decide how you're going to respond to this adverse situation. Then S is smart. Now, there was a lot of times early on that I felt very stupid, especially when it came to insurance. You can imagine how much insurance I had to do, and you'd think that you would have car and home insurance kind of all together, even though it was all under the same insurance company. They were saying terms that I had no idea anything about, and I felt stupid about that. I felt like I didn't take out enough insurance and didn't understand how it worked. And one of my friends said, Jon, it's okay. You don't have to be the smartest person. Just surround yourself with smart people. I know people who know insurance. Let's reach out to them and you can learn from them. So remind yourself you're smart, because the worst thing you can do after an adverse situation is do what I did, which is lay there at night and just kick yourself for not being smart enough to figure out how to handle this adverse situation. And then I is important. It's to remember that you're important enough to get worked on, right? I didn't know that I needed EMDR. I thought it was okay that I shook, and I thought it was okay I didn't go to work because I was taking care of my family and they were important, and maybe I wasn't as important. And it was my barber who told me, Jon, you're important enough to get this EMDR treatment and to live a full life.
After being repeatedly asked how to prepare for tornadoes, Jon founded Edlin Tornado Solutions to provide simple safety solutions.
So as I was speaking about overcoming adversity, I would give the PSI book out to everybody, and then they would say, but Jon, what if I was in a tornado? How do I prepare? And I thought, well, they probably need something for that too. So I went ahead and created the Tornado Survival Guide. The first chapter is about the 10 myths of being safe in a tornado. And one of those was a myth that I believed, which is, oh, they just skip over hills. Not a helpful thing to think when you're trying to prepare for a tornado. And so out of the birth of that book then became a bigger need that I noticed people wanted, which is, hey, I heard that you need a Tornado Go Bag, you need to have all this stuff ready, but honestly, I don't know where to start. Or they would say, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and then they would never do it. So I created a company called the Edlin Tornado Solutions, which educates people on tornado safety through an online course, 6 sessions that I have online, but also a Tornado Go Bag that I've created where you just buy it and you hang it up in your safe spot and you don't have to worry about it. You're gonna have everything that you need in order to stay safe this tornado season.
Jon learned that building trust requires quality, honesty, and innovation.
The hardest thing so far about running the business is keeping it on people's minds when it's not tornado season. Unfortunately, the time that people actually want a tornado bag is by the time it's too late, when their community has already been hit by a tornado. And I'm glad it's better late than never, but ideally, in December, they would be getting them as Christmas presents or January. And I try that, but nobody's thinking about tornadoes in December, January, and February. But they do start thinking about it when it's tornado season. And that's the hardest thing, is getting them to think about it before tornado season. 3 things that I would advise entrepreneurs in the preparedness industry on how to build trust with their brand is high quality. That's gonna be your number 1, because people are going to use your product in a time of need and we don't want it to fall apart while they're using it. 2 is vulnerability. You need to be vulnerable with people and telling them the whole story, telling them what can happen, what can't happen, in case they might need something outside or on top of what you're giving. So for us, I know if you have a different pet or something like that, we may not be able to provide that, but we're gonna point you in the direction of somebody who can. And then number 3 would be that you are always looking out for anything that can change in your industry as far as new technology, new ways to keep people safe, because they're always gonna be looking for the newest way to be able to do something. And if your brand can't give that, then you're seen as irrelevant and not really somebody they can trust because you're not up to date. As an entrepreneur, it's important that your brand is real, that your brand is something that people can look at and see themselves in. And so when I talk about the fact that these are things that I wish I would have done that I didn't do, these are myths that I believed in, that's a way to create an emotional connection with your clients through your brand.
Driven by his experience, Jon now helps families stay safe and aims to leave a lasting impact through better preparedness.
There's a tendency in the preparedness industry for people to pack as many things as possible into a survival kit, right? Because the idea is that the more, the better. But the reality is that when you're in a situation like that, you don't want to be sifting through everything, trying to find what you need. You're going to want what you need when you need it. And so my hope for this industry is that we'll stop packing it full with things that people don't need and really think about what are the essentials and how can we make those essentials so high quality that it will actually help people when they're in that situation. What motivates me these days is getting up and telling people about my story, telling people about what I really went through, and making sure that young families are doing everything they can to keep their families safe and to not just blow over the idea that, well, it'll never happen to me, but to really take it seriously and to prepare and to have a plan. 50 years from now, I hope people look back and see Edlin Tornado Solutions as a company that brought good and brought thought to preparedness through something that I hope nobody ever has to go through, but if they do, that they'll be prepared and they'll have the tools they need, not only to help their family, but to help their neighbors and their community as well. As a small business owner or entrepreneur, it's important to understand your community's needs, and especially if something like a tornado has gone through your community, even if it's not right down the street from you, but it's a few miles away, make sure that you're finding ways to show that community that you care about them. Train your employees to look for tornado survivors and to see, they all kind of have that look like, I just went through something terrible. And empower your employees to be able to do something above and beyond for them, because it will make such a huge impact for those tornado survivors and for your community. And your brand will be seen as somebody who actually cares about the community and not just about making money. My name is Jon Edlin, and I'm a legacy maker because I created a preparedness business that revolutionized the industry.